What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to do something a bit different in a way. Literally, no one asked me to do a video like this, but I'm going ahead and doing it anyway. So I've been watching a bit of, people talk about their top 20 albums that like sort of influenced them throughout their teenage years, and I thought, damn, that's a cool idea. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Let's see how long it takes for me to get through 20 of them. I sat down and mapped out what I went back through my life to be like, oh yeah, I remember listening to that a lot. Oh, that's right, I really love this album as well. So I'm going to take you on this journey. It's almost like the how I got into metal video at the same time, but at the same time, not so slightly. But yeah, we'll see how we get on. So it's obviously rock and metal, it's literally metal, I think, minus one album, and that's the first one. So we're going to talk about, let me talk about just real quick. So the first album I ever owned, aside from rock and metal, at the age of 6, I'm pretty sure. Was it 6 or 7? What year was it? 2000, so yeah. Robbie Williams' Sing When You're Winning was released, and that was the album that introduced me to music as a thing. Yes, it's pop music, but it's insanely good pop music. Being British, obviously, naturally get attracted to Rob. And to this day, that still stands as like my top 3 overall albums of all time. Not just metal, but if you take aside every genre, that's definitely one up there. And then, you go through the whole, that was like a big thing for me for the first 5 years of my musical listening life. And then I got an album for Christmas that was it was a compilation album of basically things that were on the radio, but at the same time not, more like pop party hits. The heaviest thing on that album was probably Avril Lavigne's Skater Boy. They called it a Hot Wheels Hot Hits thing, I think. That's what it was. But why I wanted it so bad is because it had a second disc. It had a DVD of this Highway 35 Hot Wheels Ring of Fire race thing, and they released like 5 episodes across 5 CDs, but like the first CD was good and the second CD was good, but by part 3 I was only buying them because I needed to watch the rest of this race. This is before YouTube, so I couldn't look it up or anything like that. So yeah, that's where that happened. And then probably me and my friends me and one friend in particular thrashed that for a good while. Felt like years, to be honest. And then, because we listened to the same stuff anyway. And then I kind of grew up, and this album came out, and this band, I thought they were a new band, but then you find out that they've actually been around for 20 years, and it probably acts as the first rock album that made me kind of think, oh, so that's what a guitar does. And that, of course, was none other than Green Day's American Idiot. This is definitely an album that was thrashed in my room on my little round boombox thing that I had. I just had it on all the time. It was it wasn't aggressive, but it was very angry music compared to stuff that I'd heard before, and it was just a phenomenal record. Every minus 2, I think, take away a couple, this album is literally like 10 out of 10 on all the songs. What are the ones? Letter Bomb's a great song, aside from all the singles are great, but I think the only one I'd get rid of is what's it called? Where is it? Extraordinary Girl. Yeah, I don't like that one very much. I know a few people who don't actually like that song very much, but anyway, yeah, American Idiot, Jesus Suburbia, Holiday, Boulevard of Broken Dreams, Wake Me Up When September Ends, they're all good. But yeah, this album really paved the way for me to be like, hey, this is what happens if you turn on a guitar and make it electric. So yeah, I know it's not metal, it's a punk album, but yeah, still really, really good. And I actually just realized here that I was holding both of them, so what I should have done really is put it there and then talked about it. But let's see if we can do that. Okay, cool. So that's about 2006, 2007, like real early into what music is. And then come 2008, I got into high school. I was like year 10 at that time, Form 4 at that age. And I was I wanted to get into heavier stuff at the time. Obviously this is pretty much gateway music right now. So for me, the heaviest thing at the time, which was what was then being played on the radio. My mum had the rock radio station that our country has called The Rock on like all the time, and they busted out some pretty cool stuff. That's pretty much Gateway, and the album that was a must-have in our house, well, not in our house, must-have in my rack was Appetite for Destruction by the old GNR. Yeah, Guns N' Roses is 1987, I'm pretty sure. Appetite for Destruction. This is a beaten up album. It's got a huge crack in it. I'm pretty sure it's in 2. It's not in 2. That's rather impressive. But yeah, I'd be very surprised if this played through without it like skipping and jumping, because I had this on. This was like the beginning of. Okay, yeah, so that was heavy and fast. This was like, okay, so that's what a solo is, you know. Slash was suddenly deemed a rock god in my mind, and everything he did I wanted to learn to a point, you know. Didn't really follow that path, but yeah, Welcome to the Jungle. There's some awesome, obviously this album is like insanely popular in terms of like what's on it. Welcome to the Jungle's on it. You got all the singles. Welcome to the Jungle, Brownstone, Paradise City, Mama Shell, Sweet Child of Mine's on here, of course. Rocket Queen, and then the ones that probably don't get talked about enough, you know, things like Night Train, It's So Easy, Mr. Brownstone is like a single that that wasn't, but should have been a single kind of thing. But yeah, that woke me up to be like, okay, cool, we're moving on, you know, we're getting heavy now, heavier. And then after I discovered that album, something happened. One day, mother decided that, well, discovered really, noticed that I was listening to a lot of this, like, this rock radio stuff, and she, you know, the stuff that she was playing that she liked, I was liking it too, and then she goes, here you go, listen to this. And she pulled out Iron Maiden's first album. Now, if you're familiar with this channel, if you're familiar with me at all, you'll know that I absolutely adore that album. That album is, to me, 12 out of 10 perfection in terms of everything about it. But that is not the album that sort of showed me who Maiden were. It was the album that showed me who Maiden were, because she was like, here, check these guys out. But I didn't attach to it straight away. And then that same year, I got this for Christmas, The Number of the Beast. And this was the album that I thrashed at first, like, for a good while anyway. Ma didn't listen to a lot of Maiden. Quick backstory, she used to see Iron Maiden live every Friday before they were famous, so she was a huge Paul Di'Anno fan, and then when Paul left and Bruce turned up, she stopped listening. So she got this for me, not knowing really what was on it. She knew Number of the Beast and The Hills, and that's about it. But like, there's some really, really cool stuff on here, and when I heard this album, that was it. I was like, all right, what is this? Here we go. And then the obsession sort of took over and began. I talk about Maiden so much on this channel, it's not funny. But everything they did, I wanted to do, you know. And yeah, this album really was like a brilliant introduction to be like, hey, these guys are quite cool, check them out. And they are beyond quite cool. They're freaking amazing. Invaders, Children of the Damned, Prisoner, Acacia Avenue, the title track, Run to the Hills, Gangland, and Total Eclipse. We all know they're a bit stupid, they can get thrown off, and then it ends with Hallowed Be Thy Name. So what more do you want? But yeah, that was a very, very important album for for me discovering what metal was. This is like the first metal band now. We're getting into heavy metal, not just hard rock. So yeah, we're moving on. And then another album that kind of was around that era, what else came out at that time? Well, not came out at that time, but for me was happening at that time, was Guitar Hero came out. And Legends of Rock was circling in my circle of friends. And what fantastic songs are on there. Obviously, there's some pretty awesome stuff. But if you're really clever enough to finish the game, you get Dragon Force, Through the Fire and Flames. Now, I don't actually own this album, but I became obsessed with Dragon Force when I heard that. I thought, holy damn, that's so fast, guitar-wise, that's so clear, and it's so pristine. Everything about it sounds amazing. So I immediately found this album, and I think I listened to it. YouTube was a thing by then, so whole albums were on the internet by then. So thankfully, that was I was able to listen to it like that. But yeah, honestly, that album was just whoa. It was just 56 minutes or whatever of pure double bass just going. It's the most extreme power metal you've ever heard. Obviously Through the Fire and Flames is on that album, but also we've got what's it called, Revolution Death Squad, which is a weirdly awesome fun song. It's a bit long. Storming Through the Burning Fields, that's great fun too. I really love that song. Operation Ground and Pound's really cool. Cry for Eternity, Flame of Youth, Body Breakdown, and Trails of a Broken Heart. I'm pretty sure I just listed all the tracks without looking at it. But yeah, that album showed me what heavy, fast power metal was. And it was sort of the gateway into what music I would very quickly grow to be obsessed with. And yeah, everything was fast, everything was heavy, and everything had to go all the time like this. So yeah, really cool album. And if you haven't heard anything other than Through the Fire and Flames, I highly recommend you go listen to something else by them because it's great. So then after the whole power metal thing happened, there might be a band in particular that I might not have mentioned yet, and that's because I purely stayed away from them they just did not excite me, and you could probably maybe figure out who I am, but instead of going towards them first, I found these guys. I found Megadeth, and how I found Megadeth actually is quite funny because, well, I was listening to Megadeth before I knew who Megadeth were. I used to play Vice City, Grand Theft Auto Vice City, and once I started to listen to things like Maiden and Guns N' Roses and whatnot, I swapped my radio station to the rock station, the heavy metal station in the game. When I would play it, I would listen to the pop stations, and then I grew up and listened to the metal. And Peace Sells, the song was on there, and I was like, "What?" You know, it's really cool. So then later, I enjoyed it without really caring about it, if you know what I mean. So then when I later found out that that's the song that's on the game, I was like, "All right, cool." And unlike Rust in Peace, that's a really cool song too with Holy Wars and Tornado. But I really dig Peace Sells a lot more than Rust in Peace. But yeah, this took me back to this album. Showed me, well, in a way, showed me what thrash was, because you know you listen to Dragon Force and it's hard and fast, but it's not so much thrashy because Dragon Force doesn't chug. Megadeth and Metallica chug, you know, so to a point they're not deathcore chug, but yeah, you get what I mean. So it kind of took me a step back to be like, hey, in order for that to sound like that, we had to get through this first. And it was really cool. And there's some awesomely fun, good songs on this one too. Obviously, Peace Sells is on here. The Conjuring's a really cool song. Devil's Island is great. And Wake Up Dead's on this one too, which is, again, a really fun song. Real fun and really cool to own on several formats. So yeah, this is a remastered, that's a remastered, but yeah. So yeah, Peace Sells showed me sort of what thrash was and took me back away from everything sounding pure, crisp, and pristine like a studio. And then, like most typical teenagers, I suppose, not typical teenagers, metalheads rather, you start to think, okay, cool, so we've heard Maiden, we've heard Megadeth, is there anything that's like heavier? Can we get heavier than this? And the answer is yes. We know now that we can get heavier. So I went down what I call the drop C standard tuning bands. So like one that's the album that turns up now, boom, is Bullet for My Valentine's Fever. Not so much Scream Aim Fire. However, that album is great too. But this was the album that me and Mum really thrashed this one for some bizarre reason. I suppose because it's metalcore, so it's, you know, kind of heavy, but it's also really catchy in certain parts as well. I think that's what makes it listenable for people who don't listen to metal. And so, you know, this is when oh my god, I can turn my guitar strings this way and they make a lower sound. So yeah, bands like Bullet for My Valentine, bands like Disturbed with Indestructible, you know, things slightly heavier stuff. But yeah, Fever, we thrashed. Fever showed me what metalcore was, and it was like the gateway into the heavier stuff once I'd gotten used to how hard Megadeth went and things like that. But yeah, that's a really fun album as well. Highly recommend listening to that one more so than obviously Scream and Fire is pretty cool, and obviously The Poison is where it's at. But like, this one kicks as well. Fever, the song Your Betrayal. There's some really hateful songs on it though. If you listen to the words, you know, there's songs like Alone, Begging for Mercy, Pretty on the Outside, A Place Where You Belong, really beautiful song about suicide, and someone, you know, being taken away. Really awesome album anyway. But yeah, really fun metalcore album. Would highly recommend that one for anyone. Yeah. So yeah, that showed me what metalcore was pretty much. When was that? That was like 2000. I want to say 9, maybe early 2010. I don't know. But yeah, moving on. And then something happened. I'm not sure what happened. I think I okay. So I associated Metallica with Enter Sandman, and that's as far as it got. I did not want to branch out to listen to more of that because I think because it was on the radio, purely for that reason. I just did not like the sound of it at that time, whenever it was, and I just didn't dwell into it. I didn't look up. I didn't look them up. I didn't do anything about them until I saw. I think I just randomly saw the trailer for Guitar Hero Metallica, and on the intro, the song that made me go, "Wait a minute, that doesn't sound like radio music. What is it?" And it was the album of all albums. It was Master of Puppets. I heard the song Master of Puppets and it put me on the floor. I was like, whoa, okay, that's better. You know, it's like Megadeth in a way, but it's more chug chug. Like it's, yeah, it is chug 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 because the riffs aren't as technical as the likes of Mustaine's, but that's fine. Anyway, yeah, so this album, holy God, it hit me back quite big. And when I heard it, I was like, what is this? So I played Puppets again and again and again. I learned how to play it. Really, really proud of that. And then, you know, other songs like Battery was just like, whoa, what is this? This is like proper thrash. This is what thrash is. Okay, cool. You know, Battery's on here, Master's on here. Disposable Heroes to this day still stands as my favorite Metallica song ever. Really, really awesome. Leper Messiah, Orion. Oh, honestly, this album, it's just, it sort of made me go, righto, yeah. But what was funny about it, obviously it's in a standard tuning, but you know, it felt so heavy. It was so heavy, and it blew my little childhood mind, as I keep saying when I talk about these albums. But yeah, it was just so cool, and it was just great. I don't know. It was just really, really awesome. Everyone gets influenced by this album somehow. So yeah, that's my take on Master of Puppets. Next up is another fun one that I don't actually own, but again, I think I thrashed it because how did I find it? Because they covered a Maiden song, and it sounded really, really good. And so I found the album of what it was, and the album was devoted to horror figures, like fictional and sort of real to a point, and that was Iced Earth's Horror Show. Yeah, this album I really, really weirdly enjoyed. Like, I don't know, every song on it, I suppose because it was sort of like, it had Metallica riffs with the whole chug chug chug, but it also had a beautiful, at moments, really, really good singing voice. Like, there are songs on there like Wolf and Jack, which have some really, really high pitched stuff. And is it the fourth track or the fifth track is it about pharaohs? I can't remember, but there's just, yeah, the ending to it was really, really cool. And they covered Transylvania, the Iron Maiden song, and then they tuned that down, and it just sounded much heavier. And I was like, this is cool. So yeah, Horror Show was a really, really cool album, and I don't own it, and I've never seen it in a shop, so sucky, but yeah, that's a really cool album as well. Really, really love that one. Next up again is sort of like another C standard sort of band, you could say, in the metalcore, but not so much metalcore. They're more a bit brutal than metalcore, and I thrashed this album every day at work when I used to work, when I was allowed a headphone in so I could go about my job listening to music, and that was Trivium's magnum opus, Shogun. So yeah, anyone that knows Trivium knows that this is their best work. Everyone knows that. And every song on here is like a literal banger. And again, I think this is the album that sort of showed me, like, you can be heavy, you can be brutal, but you can also sing as well. You can sing a really, really nice tune and still have riffs upon riffs and insane solos. And it was just like awesome. Yeah. The first song, I can't say it. Chris, the first song. These song titles, torn between Skylar and Charybdis. Down from the Sky, brilliant song. I heard that on Headbangers Ball. No, Yes, I did. I heard that on Headbangers Ball, and that's what made me want to get my hands on it. That's right. That's where that came from. And it's funny how memories come back when things like that happens. The Calamity of Prometheus and the Crucifix. The title track, Shogun. I'm sorry, I got to look at them, but yeah, literally every song on there was damn good, and it just I don't know, it just played it so much that it was just always going on. I have it on CD too somewhere. I think it's here. Yeah, I bought it because why not? Hey, it was great. It was a great album. And then again, the Headbangers Ball thing started on TV. It was on late at night. This is like 2011, 2012 now, so I'm like 17, 18, I think. Normally, at that time and point anyway, I'd probably be a lot better at it now. But at that time, I used to record it and then watch it back. So if a terrible song came on, I could just skip it. So I would like tape an hour of Headbangers Ball, but only watch like 20 minutes of it because only 3 songs of it were interesting, kind of thing. And these next 2 bands actually come from that Headbangers Ball thing. But the first one that really sort of impacted me and gave me a new obsession with a different kind of genre, Nightwish's Imaginarium, released in 2011. Now, I heard the song Storytime, and I was hooked is an understatement. I fell in love with it immediately. I fell in love with Annette's voice. I fell in love with the piano. I fell in love with the orchestras. I fell in love with the fact that it wasn't so... For the first time ever, it wasn't so metal driven, you know what I mean? Like the orchestra leads Nightwish, at least at this point in their career anyway. But I was just like, what is this? This is what's called symphonic metal, I found out, where you have a heavy metal band and an orchestra underneath it, and they combine together to create something like this. And I was gobsmacked. I couldn't believe it. And at that time, I got really annoyed because all of a sudden I had an appreciation for classical music now, which was sucky because I left school the year before, halfway through, and I was doing music, but it was so boring because they made me study Tchaikovsky, and I was all about puppets at that time. So, oh well, I appreciate classical music now. But yeah, anyway, this album is beyond albums. This album is just wow. It's up there with, it's up there with everything I'm talking about. But yeah, this obviously showed me what symphonic metal was, and it took me on this path of this next level of metal, really. Not all metal was chug, chug, chug. Not all metal was, for a better word, unintelligent. This was like proper A-class metal, I thought, and I was just like, damn, it was insane. I showed it to my mum. She fell on the floor, and boom, to this day, ranked in my top 5 metal albums of all time. Nightwish Imaginarium is honestly amazing. To anyone who hasn't checked it out, please go do it. And like I said before, I bought the album in Australia, only knowing Storytime, taking a gamble that the rest of the album would be good, and my God, was I right. So now the next one, again, I don't own, but like I said, it came from Headbangers Ball, and that was a song called Unholy Warcry by a band called Rhapsody, who are now better known as Rhapsody of Fire, and their incredible album, Symphonies of Enchanted Lands 2, The Dark Secret Saga. I think that's the whole album title. I'm not sure. But if Nightwish showed me what symphonic metal does just with orchestras behind you and accompanying you, Rhapsody showed me the beauty that is symphonic again. They just added to the symphonic level, but it also showed me this level of theatrical sort of music. The way Rhapsody writes written because it's all past tense now, really. The albums aren't that good anymore. Like that album in particular tells the first chunk of that album in particular, not that one. That album in particular tells the first chunk of a 5 album story. And it's just like, okay, the first five albums told one story, and then the next five albums told another story, and it was just like, oh my god, what is this? This is like concept music beyond concept, and it created this whole flurry in my head of like, okay, cool, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna become this one man. I'm gonna learn how to write orchestral music. I'm gonna write stories, and in actual fact, I did. I listened to Rhapsody so much that it inspired me to write my own little fantasy book. I'm currently in the middle of writing book 2. This came out like 3 years ago, so I've only just recently rebirthed that. But yeah, anyway, it inspired me to write a story in fantasy world, and it's just like far out. It's just beyond wow, and it just took my obsession with power metal to the next level, and just Unholy Warcry is a great song. Arian's Mystical Rhymes, God knows, there's some really, really beautiful music on there, and it's just like, yes, please. So yeah, Symphony of Enchanted Lands 2, probably one of the best power metal albums in the world. Go listen to it. Okay, so then you take away, like I said, I suddenly had an appreciation for classical music now that I was listening to this stuff. So again, then I was obsessed with learning all this sort of stuff, and then I found out that then the keyboard and founder and basically main songwriter of Nightwish went solo not went solo, but had a solo project for a little while, and he wrote a pure orchestral album dedicated to his favorite childhood book, and that book was called The Life and Times of Scrooge McDuck, and it gave me an appreciation for classical music by itself. It's not a heavy metal album by any means, but I really, really have to talk about it because it's just so, so beautiful. It coincides with metal. Classical was the metal of that day and age, so yeah, this album is actually beautiful. It's just really nice to have on. It's a soundtrack. It's just really, really peaceful, and it's just so nice. Glasgow, 1877, Into the West, Dreamtime, The Last Sled, A Lifetime of Adventure. That's the single from this album. And yeah, literally, it's just such a peaceful record, and I'm really, really happy to have it in a physical copy. I don't have it on a vinyl. I don't know if it exists on a vinyl, to be honest. But if it does, maybe what did it come out? 2014. Let's do a 10-year reissue, eh? So yeah, beautiful orchestral album. I'm sorry it's not metal, but it has to be talked about. Now, like a lot of teenagers, a lot of them, we go through angsty times, resentfulness. We don't like a lot of things, but we're not entirely sure why. But if you're like me and you have these feelings, there's one thing that you adapt to more, and that's music. And the album that I attached to during that dark period of life was Manson's The High End of Low. This album really helped. Just to get through day by day, just to help answer those unanswered questions that weren't relevant in any way whatsoever. It's a long album, and a bit like Shogun, I used to listen to this all the time at work as well, and I really, really love it. It's a bit different from Manson's normal work, but it's still damn good, like Devour, Leave a Scar, For Rusted, I'm a Goddamn, etc. Unkillable Monster, I Want to Kill You, like they do in the movies. Oh, there's just some really, really, really good stuff on this album, and yeah, I love that I have it. It's very, very cool. And then after that, I decided to leave home for the first time. It was the start of 2014, I think. Yeah, at the end of 13, start of 14, and I went to the capital city, and it was great fun. Had some fun times. And I had a flatmate who listened to metal too, symphonic metal. We were kind of, it was like, oh, cool, he's on that same vibe. And he showed me a band that I hadn't heard before. And I was like, all right, what's this? It was a band called Tyr, however you want to say it. And my buddy James, his name was, he told me that him and his mate used to get drunk to Hail to the Hammer all the time, and it was just a fun drinking song. So I heard it and I listened to it, and then I went back into my room and I listened to some more of their stuff, and then I listened to some more of their stuff, and then before I knew it, I was playing them all day, every day, and I really, really developed a real liking for their music. And the album that I decided to talk about in this video was, is it 2014's release, I think, or 2012, 13, somewhere around there. How do you say it? Valkyria, I think is how you say it. Yeah, really, really great album, and I really want to own that one day. But yeah, Valkyria is a fantastic album. Blood of the Heroes, Mayor of the Night, Lay of Our Love, Into the Sky. There's some other Lady of the Slain, I think. Is that what it's called? And yeah, there's just some really, really fun. It's Viking metal, and that album showed me what Viking metal was, and I was like, awesome, awesome. This is heavy. He's got a low voice, but he sings really, really awesome as well. And yeah, it's just really, really fantastic album, and I'm gonna own it one day. You wait and see. But yeah, no, that showed me what Viking metal was, and to this day, still love it more than any other Turio album. Really, really awesome. And then you move on. I found, what sort of comes hand in hand with Viking metal. Another genre that can be a bit aggressive at times, but that's why we love it, really. I found a little band that does folk music, and I fell in love with the song, which led me to listen to the whole album, and then I played that album over and over again, and that is Ensiferum with 2007's Victory Songs. Fantastic record, this. Again, like Tyr, it's obviously a bit more than Tyr. It's a lot more fast, it's aggressive, it's harsh singing, with clean vocals like for choruses and stuff, but yeah, this album I thrashed way beyond I should have. The song Victory Songs is this 10-minute album closing epic of just pure awesome, just folk metal, really, war metal at its finest. Blood is the price. What is it? Blood is the Price of Glory. Death Bringer from the Sky. There's some really, really awesome songs on here. One More Magic Potion. The Wanderer. What's that other one? The New Dawn. Literally, Raised by the Sword. There's some. What's fun about folk metal is it's fun melodies and just really, really great stuff. And obviously I own it now on vinyl, so you can tell that I care about it a lot. But yeah, to this day, really, really still thrash this one. And yeah, its introductory to folk metal was just great. And then I went on a tangent from there. And it kind of, they all sort of tied in. They all come under like the big power metal umbrella. So for me, I was so happy. I was beyond stoked to discover that. And then who else? What happened after that? And then I think living out there didn't really work. So I came home, went back to work, and I went back to the same job. And I don't know how I found it. Oh yeah, yes I do. On the Backs of Angels came out on Headbangers Ball again, and I heard it, and it was nice. And if you know who sings it, then you know who we're talking about. But if you don't, we're talking about Dream Theater. And normally I would probably talk about Octavarium being like one of the really, really big favorites of that band, but I'm not, because that's not the album that I became obsessed with at first. At first, I became obsessed with 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence. I found out who Dream Theater were, and I found out how intelligent they were in terms of like their musical capabilities and whatnot, and everything that they did musically was just insane. Everything was on point. It's almost like power metal, but a lot more technical, if that's possible. They're progressive metal now. They were the opening door to showing me what progressive metal was. When you count 1 2 3 4 1 2 1 2 3 4 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 3 3. I realized I just counted quite common time, but you know what I mean. 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 1 2 2. I never learned how to like read music, so I can't really do that when I write or anything. But yeah. 6 Degrees I thrashed again at work all day, every day. 1, it's a long album, so it killed time. And 2, it's just a fantastic album. 6 Degrees is such a good album because it's got Dream Theater's longest song, which runs for 42 minutes, which is the title track, technically. But yeah, if you know Dream Theater, they're famous for all things that make music awesome. They play fast, they play clean, they play powerful, they play slow. They're just insane. They're Pink Floyd on steroids, and I hate Pink Floyd, but I love Dream Theater. So if you like that, then go look into. If you don't mind long songs, really go listen to 6 Degrees. It's really, really cool. Then getting near the end, I probably found this a lot earlier in my life, but it didn't. That's right. But it didn't hit me until later how much fun it was, and not this exact album because this is a 10-year reissue, but I became obsessed with the debut of Alestorm, Captain Morgan's Revenge. Now, yeah, pirate metal. Again, comes under the power metal umbrella, so I fell in love with it. It's not technical to a point. It's just thrashy, it's fun, and it's just so silly. And it's nothing to be taken seriously at all, but that's why we love it. I own most of Alestorm albums. I've seen them live once, and to this day, they are my favorite. They're one of my more favorite sillier bands, if you know what I mean. They're nothing serious, and they're just really, really cool. But this album just, again, sort of reinforced the love I've got for power metal and all things fun and folky and just, yeah, honestly, really, really cool. And then I should probably just quickly mention as well that with Alestorm and the whole Rhapsody Fantasy Tales story thing came Gloryhammer, the Tales from the Kingdom of Fife. That was like a poor man's Rhapsody in terms of like the intenseness of storytelling. Rhapsody tell one story across 5 albums. Gloryhammer have 3 albums out now, and technically they're doing the same thing. They're telling one story, but anyway, like the symphonic the orchestral arrangements in Gloryhammer and the technical playing of it. It's just it still sounds great and it's amazing to listen to, but Rhapsody's music is just beyond the ceiling, But yeah, Tales from the Kingdom of Fife really sort of implanted that, hey, look, you don't need 15 years of neoclassical study to be able to write an epic sort of power metal, folk metal album. So that inspired me. I think that might have helped more with the book I mentioned, but yeah. Really, really fun album. Only 10 tracks, which goes to like 40 odd minutes. But yeah, really, really fun. And it just, again, enforced that love for power metal. And that's why I mentioned it on this list. And it's cool. And then lastly, I just thought I should pay homage to the first vinyl that I owned. And probably the first, not instrumental album because it's got singing on it. But Yngwie Malmsteen's Eclipse. This was a gift from a dear, dear friend. And I really, really enjoyed it because I hadn't heard anything like it at the time. I got this at the start of 2014, I think. And I hadn't heard anything like it because it was sort of... Because when did this come out? 1990, I think. 1992, something like that. And it's just upbeat and fun, and it's just full of guitar wankery and shred, and it's just so unnecessary. But it's beautiful. Then there are some other really, really beautiful moments on here. Like, what's the ballad? Save Our Love is quite slow, and then everything else is pretty fast and upbeat in typical Malmsteen style. Making Love is fun. Bedroom Eyes is great, but my favorite one is probably Fault Line. It's got such a cool... I don't know. The chorus, I really always loved the chorus for Fault Line. But yeah, I played this quite a bit back then, and I don't actually listen to it much anymore, but maybe I should get back into it. But yeah. But yeah, Eclipse from Malmsteen really showed me what neoclassical shredding was. I thought Maiden was shredding, and then I saw this, and I was like, cool, man, we can even go faster. And there we have it, team. There's my 20 albums that... What's the name of this video? I don't know. 20 albums that I loved through my teens, something like that. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. We just hit the 40-minute mark on my timer, so that's really, really cool. If you enjoyed that, give it a thumbs up and all that other fun promotion stuff that we do. Don't click the bell if you don't want to. You don't need emails telling you that I've uploaded. But hey, anyway, there'll be more videos coming out talking about more metal, like always, and until that happens, I will keep busy as long as you keep busy and you stay inside, and until the next video, I will see you all again soon.